Hi, welcome back to my channel. You've joined us in the second part of making the craft bucket bag. So this part that I'll be doing at this present time, is an optional extra, and that's to generate the handles on the side. So you'll need 1 inch wide webbing and 1.5 meters of it. If you want to do this optional extra of handles, you'll need your 2 main outer body pieces, which has got your foam stabilizer fused and the excess cut away. You'll need your pair of scissors, a marking tool, quilter's tape or pins, and a quilter's roll. So I'm going to just pop the one body piece to one side and move those out of the way. So with the webbing, you'll need to make it so it's 29 inches long. So I'm going to fold it in half, making sure it's got equal amounts, and I'm just going to cut on that fold. Now they should be around 29 inches long, and you should have 2 pieces of strapping now. So I'm just going to pop the one piece of strapping to one side. Okay. And then on both short ends, I'm going to run quilter's tape on. You might want to run 2 or 3 pieces, and you might want it approximately 7 inches going up. So quilter's tape or wash away tape is a great invention. Okay. Which basically makes pins redundant. And basically sticks it to the actual fabric, but also works as into the fact that it washes away, so it doesn't stay on. So I've done that on that one side. I'm just going to move it over to this side and do the same on this side. And once you've done that, pop the tape to one side. We're going to get your 1 main outer body piece, and from the base we are going to measure from the bottom edge. From this bottom edge we are going to measure in 4 3/4. 4 3/4, and then I like to measure to make sure the bottom lines up with a strong line on my roll. So I've gone on one of the inch lines, and then at the top you'll notice it'll be 3.5 inches in. So that's making sure the measurement's correct there. This is all explained in the actual pattern. Now we're going to making sure, yeah, we're going to peel off the backing tape of both of those pieces. Okay, and then what we're going to do is lie this flat, making sure the raw edge is going to the bottom, and we're going to match that right up next to the roll so it's in a straight line. We're just going to stick that down and give it a good press. Now we're going to repeat the same measurements on this side, making sure the bottom of my panel lines up to an inch line on my actual roll. So that's 4 3/4 on the bottom and 3 1/2 on top. Then we're going to go to the other end of our strap, our webbing strapping, and peel off the backing of this part of the tape. And we're going to make sure that this top part makes a U shape and it's not twisted. And we're just going to once again match up so it's straight and touches the bottom of the bag and the raw edge does, and we're going to stick that into place. So now they're both stuck into place, you're going to get a marking pen. I'm using a friction pen. Not advisable on dark fabrics because they do reappear with cold. So, but a chalk pencil or pen will help. And now we're going to measure from the top 1 1/4 inches. And we're going to run a line just on the webbing, and these are going to be called the sewn lines. So you're going to take this over to your machine and top stitch 1/8 of an inch on the edge of this webbing, 1/8 of an inch away, and then you're going to sew across that where that mark line is and then back down here. And you're going to do that for both sides, and then once you've done that, repeat the same process for the other handle and the other main body piece. Right, so now you've actually done the optional extra of the handles. Like I say, it's not needed, it's just there so you can carry it around with the handles if you don't want to carry it over your shoulder. So as you can see, I've sewn across down the 2 sides, and I've done that for both panels. Now we're going to pop those to one side and we're going to move on to the actual main pattern itself. And we're going to start off with the outer slip pockets. So for your outer slip pockets, you will have 2 main pieces and your 2 lining pieces, and all 4 pieces have got interfacing on. It's advisable that you use interfacing on all 4 pieces. It will give you the structure that you need for your pockets. So we're going to take 1 of each piece, so that's the lining and the outer, and then we're just going to pop those right sides together. So that's obviously my 2 pattern pieces matching fabrics, and then we're just going to pin along that top row. So that's the shorter long side, not the long side. Right, so now we're going to sew 1 centimetre seam allowance. Sew these 2 together using 1 centimetre seam allowance or 3/8 of an inch, and we're going to sew along the top row there. And then once we've sewn, we are then going to open it out and give it a good press, and then make sure the right side's facing out on both of them, and then we are going to top stitch along that. And then you can do that for the other 2 pieces, and this will be the start of the slip pockets on the outside. So now I've actually done the sewed the outer slip pocket to the lining pieces. I've gone and done a top stitch along the top, and I've done that for both pieces. So I'm just going to put one to one side and take one of the main outer panel pieces, the main body pieces, and what we're going to do is find the centre top and the centre bottom. So how I do that is fold it in half I'm just getting a pair of scissors, just slightly snip into where the seam allowance is. And do that for the bottom piece. Okay, and then what we're going to do is get your outer slip pocket, and we're just going to, you could press this with your iron, but I'm just going to finger press it. Give it a good crease mark. Okay, so where I've got a centre top and centre bottom, I'm just going to pop a pin on the centre top area, so I know exactly where the centre top is. I'm going to open up the panel, the outer slip pocket, and my centre is here, so we're just going to pop a pin there so I know exactly where that is, and I'll probably do the same on the top as well. Oops. Okay. These are only just so we know exactly where to lay this at this point. So just want to double check my centre bottom to make sure I've clipped it in the right area, which I haven't, so always double check where your centre is. That's more like it, that's my centre there. So pop in this outer slip pocket, wrong side facing down and your right side facing up. We are going to pop this centre on top of that, matching up the bottom edge. I'm just going to pop that pin in there, and then I'm also going to pop that pin in there. Now this part is optional. I like to draw a bit of a line down the centre, matching up the centre top and centre bottom of the actual slip pocket. Now we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and on that centre we're just going to sew top stitch down there, making sure you reverse stitch quite a few times on the top of this, and then I'll meet you back at the table. Right, so now we have sewn the slip pockets to the main outer body pieces. We're only sewing it down the centre, so it should look something a bit like that. I've gone ahead and done that for both pieces. Okay, so the next bit we need to do is start generating the pleated part of the actual pocket. So taking the two outer pieces, outer small sides of the slip pocket, and I'm just going to match it up to the actual side of the main outer body and clip those into place, like so. And I'm just going to do that for the other side. Right. So at this stage, I tell you in the pattern to sew down those two sides to hold it into place. But I'm just going to jump over to the next step, because I will do that when I sew the base bit. So you've got these two bits here. This is where you can be a bit precise. So if you want the pleats to finish at a certain point, so for instance I want it to go, you can at this point, let me just rephrase this, you can at this point just press down and clip that into place. Now I like a bit of what do you call it, symmetrical. So I'm going to make sure from the center line, I'm going to make sure one of my pleats ends at 1.5, and I'm just making the pleat about half an inch down. I'm just going to clip that into place, and then with this part here I'm just going to fold down and I'm just going to measure where that side of the pocket had finished. So just making sure that's all neat before I go any further, because you want it all to match up at the bottom. So I've gone 2 inches from the side. I'm just going to repeat the same measurements on this side of the slip pocket. So that's 1.5 in the centre, making it fold approximately half an inch there. And clip that into place. And then 2 inches from this line here. Making sure it all meets at the bottom and it's all the edges are meeting and matching up. So I'm going to repeat the same measurements on this body piece and this other slip pocket, and then once I've done that I'm going to stitch within the seam allowance. So I'm going to stitch 1/4 of an inch away from the edge, down the 2 sides and across the bottom, and where these pleats are I advise you to just go over and reverse stitch a few times just to hold them into place. You can also, at your iron, just press this lower part of the body of the pocket, so it basically just forms these creases a lot better. If you want to, you can press the whole pocket if you want to make the creases more dominant, but I actually like them sticking out a bit. So yeah, I'm only going to press just this part here. Right, so now we've attached the slip pockets to the actual bag. Like you can see, I've given it a bit of a press at the bottom to make it more dominant. You can pop those to one side at the moment. And we're going to move on to the rectangle tabs. So I've fused interfacing to the wrong side of the tabs. Then I folded it in half and gave it a finger press, like so. And then I needed to fold these 2 long sides into that centre crease, like so. And then I gave that a bit of a press. And then I did the same with this side. And then you'll find that it will measure 1 inch wide. So I've gone ahead and done that for this piece to show you what I actually need you to do. Then, now you're going to take it to your sewing machine and top stitch 1/8 of an inch down both 2 long edges. You're going to do that for both tabs. Once you've top stitched it, you're then going to get one of your rectangle rings and feed that on into the centre. Pop a clip on the end and sew as close as you can to this rectangular tab. Now I find that putting my zip foot helps me get as close as possible to this tab here, to this rectangular ring, and you need to do that for both rectangle rings. So first of all you need to press it to the wrong side, so basically you've got a neat folded edges. Top stitch down both 2 long sides, Then feed your rectangle ring on and then sew across. Sew across like so to hold it into place, and you need to do that for both sets. Okay, so now you've completed your tabs. As you can see, I stitched as close as I could with using my zipper foot on the actual machine. We're going to finish the final stage of this section, and that's making the outer bag. So we're going to pop those rings to one side at the moment, and we're going to get our base, outer base, the one that's got the foam attached to it. And we're going to find the quarters, so we need to find the top and the bottom of the two long sides, the centres of the two long sides, and we need to find the centre of the two short sides as well. So once again, I'm just folding those and making sure they're accurately all meet up around here so we can actually find the dead centres. And I'm just going to snip the quarters. And so that's the two long sides done. I'm going to match up those two centres and match up the edges to find the two short side centres. And I'm sorry if you can hear the traffic. I live by a main road and it's farming season, so the tractors are all zooming around because we live in the countryside. So you've got the centres of both the long and short edge, and we're just going to pop this to one side at the moment, and we're going to get the two body pieces and we're going to pop those right sides together, and we're going to clip down the two sides. But what you might want to do is those key areas where you want to match up. As you can see, you've got the two slip pockets and the top of the two slip pockets. You want those to match up to make it a neat finish. And we're going to match up the bottom part as well, and add a clip there as well. And then we're just going to do exactly the same on the other side. So the key area is the top of the two slip pockets match up. And clip here, and also clip down at the base area. And clip in that centre. So using a standard stitch length on your machine, which is a 2.4 to 2.5 depending on your machine, we're going to sew down these two short sides here using 1 centimetre seam allowance or 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then we are going to press with your iron these seams open so there is no bulk when we come to the later stages of building the bag together. So we now need to attach the base to the actual main body part of the bag. So once again, we found the centre of the centre bottom of the actual outer bag pieces, but we just want to make those snips a bit more dominant because we actually have sewn down those centre lines when we attach the slip pocket. Right, so the next thing you need to do is get your base and right sides together. So you've got your two long sides, they will go on these two edges here. So we're just going to clip the two centres first, and the same with matching up that centre as well. Then the two side seams of your bag is going to meet the two short sides centres of the base, and we're going to clip those into place, making sure you open up this seam on the side. And do that for the other side. Now if the bag goes a bit weird, don't worry, we will sort that out in a minute. Right, so now we've found the 4 centres, we're going to now just keep matching up the edges, the bottom edge of the bag to the actual base, and keep clipping, and you'll naturally see that the foam base will sit into that part of the bag. You need to do that for all of this part here. So now we've clipped all the way around, you need to take this to your sewing machine. Now you might find when you're actually sewing, you might want to push as much as you can out of the way. Don't worry, it will bounce back. And sew all the way around using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And once you've done that, just slightly trim back the seam allowance, the bulk. So now I've sewn all the way around, I've actually trimmed back the seam allowance, so it's just over 1/4 of an inch left of the bulk. And what we need to do now is push this so it's right side facing out. Don't worry if it looks a bit creased at this point, we can give it a press afterwards. And at this point we're just making sure your seam has caught and you haven't got any pieces, any not sewn areas. Just give it a bit of a finger press, a roll, making sure you've caught everything. Okay, and then now we need to get the 2 ring tabs, and we're just going to pop them right sides together. So I'm choosing a better side. I like the slough on this tab, so I want it to face outwards on the finished bag. So the slough needs to go towards the actual body. And I'm just matching up the raw edges and on the side seam and opening up that side seam as well, so making sure this is opened up. And I'm just going to clip that into place and repeat it for this one. So yeah, so I have a slough there, so I want him on the outside once the bag is finished. So once again the slough has gone towards the bag main body piece, and I'm just going to clip that together. And now we're going to just base stitch within the seam allowance, so just to make sure these are into place on both sides. And then what I'm going to do is with my iron give the base a good crisp press, making sure this is all flat and ready for the next steps and the next section. So this has been section 2, where we've made the outer bag piece, and we're moving on to the next section, which is for the lining of the bag.